Eshani, aka Total Makeup Junkie 101, and welcome back to Holiday Hoopla on my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the first of many Tarte holiday releases. You guys know that Tarte goes a little crazy around the holidays. I mean, they have exclusive kits for QVC, for Macy's, for their website, for Ulta, for Sephora. It's insanity. This is probably the most exciting release from everything that I've seen, in my opinion. It's the one that sold out really quick, but I have seen it being restocked on Sephora.com off and on. This is the Tarte Color Wheel Blush Palette. This is what the outer casing looks like. It's kind of like this plastic with this metallic gold on the back. And then this is what you actually get. As you can see, there's no mirror in this palette because you are getting two sides of Amazonian clay blushes. The blushes in this palette are not full size. They are more of that deluxe sample size, but for 10 different shades of the Amazonian clay blush, this palette only retails for $44. If you're familiar with Tarte holiday palettes in the past, they've always released an Amazonian clay blush palette that has about 5 shades, and those have generally retailed for about $42 or so. So for this to be $44 and you get 10 shades in a really, really nice compact palette, I'm already obsessed with it. Honestly, they didn't have to do much more. Now, if you guys have been with me for a while, you know that I really, really love the Tarte Amazonian Clay Blush formula. These are blushes that don't work as well if you just stuck a finger in them and swatched it on your hand. Sometimes you'll think that they look powdery or they look chalky or they look not pigmented. This is a formula you really need to use with a brush. Over the years, Tarte has kind of improved this formula. I feel like the original ones that were in the full-size compacts were really, really stiff. But I do think with them making the formula smoother and softer, I think overall it has kind of weakened the longevity. Tarte released this Amazonian clay blush several years ago with the intent of it being a 12-hour long wearing blush. That Amazonian clay is supposed to kind of help it adhere to the skin and not move and almost act like a powder stain on the skin. I think over time, as the whole Amazonian clay thing has kind of blown up, it's almost become more of a marketing aspect for Tarte because now they have Amazonian clay eyeliners and foundation and all this other stuff. And I think what the original intent of that Amazonian clay being in the product has kind of diminished. And it's not just this palette, but it's several of the holiday palettes that Tarte has released over the past couple years. I don't think the blushes hold up as well as the originals or as the ones you can get in the single compacts. Now, when I bring you guys up close, you can see that each of the pans does have that classic Amazonian clay kind of imprinting in it. Each of the colors is actually labeled in the palette. That was particularly really exciting for me. There is this little piece of plastic that is attached to the palette. You can pull it out if you want, I suppose, but I'm gonna leave it in because it's the only thing kind of dividing the two halves. Now, the way Tarte has divided up this palette is on one half, what I'm gonna consider your top half, because when you close the palette, this is the top of the palette. When you pull it up, this top half right here is definitely a lot more kind of warmer coral tones. And then the bottom half of the palette down here is definitely a lot more of your kind of cooler or plummy tones. Now, before I talk about the actual color payoff and the color selection and everything you're getting in this palette, let's go ahead and just jump into swatches of both halves of this palette. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch the top half first. I'm gonna start with the lightest highlighter shade and then work my way around clockwise. From left to right, we have Idol, Mod, Deco, Surreal, and Culture. As I stated, this is definitely the warmer half of the palette, and only 2 of the 3 shades here have any sort of shimmer or some slight glitter, and that would be the lightest shade, which is Idol, and then the last color in the row, which is Culture. And here we have swatches of the bottom half in the palette. From left to right, we have Crafty, Concept, Icon, Montage, and Ironic. As I said, this is definitely the cooler half of the palette, some more kind of neutral or plummy tones. From what I can tell, only one shade has some shimmer, and that would be the first kind of highlighter shade in Crafty. I like that Tarte included 2 shades that were clearly meant to be used as highlighters, but I do wish they would have included some more just darker, richer shades. I feel like the majority of these colors really lie in that mid-tone family, which I know is probably the colors that everybody reaches for. Those are your day-to-day blush colors. But when you have a palette of 10 different options, it would have been nice for them to really be 10 distinctly different blushes. For example, just looking at this bottom half of the palette, I really feel like these 2 shades give me a very, very similar look on my face. And if I were to mix this shade and this shade, I would probably get, once again, the same color as one of these. The highlighter here at the bottom, which is Crafty, I'm not really that crazy about. It's more shimmer than actual color or like a glow. I do think Idol is a little bit better, but I don't think either of the highlights are amazing. Anyways, moving away from that, now let's go ahead and get into kind of the geeky portion of this review. As stated earlier in the video, this palette does retail for $44. You are getting 10 shades, and each of the pans holds 2.4 grams of product, making this entire palette have 24 grams of product total. That breaks down to $1.83 per gram that you are paying for this palette. If you were to purchase a full-size Amazonian clay blush, that retails for $28. You get 5.7 grams of product, which breaks down to $4.91 per gram in a full-size blush. Let me go ahead and tell that to you guys again. $1.83 per gram versus $4.91 per gram. You guys get where I'm going with this? This is an awesome deal. This palette retails for about 1.5 times a full-size Amazonian clay blush, but you're getting like 5 times as much product as you are in a full size. So I think this is an amazing, amazing deal. Overall, I do think this is one of the biggest hits in this year's Tarte holiday collection. It's definitely my favorite piece of the entire collection. It's the one I would highly recommend gifting to someone who you know is a blush fiend. I definitely think they would love it. That is pretty much everything. Thank you guys so much for watching this holiday hoopla video. In case you guys haven't seen my holiday hoopla playlist, I will go ahead and link it down below for you. That playlist has all of my holiday review videos that I've done thus far, and it is constantly being updated with new videos as I put them up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in my next video on Thursday. I will see you then. Bye. Just say this here and now. This is probably the best, most exciting. This kit retails for $28 and you are getting 6 kind of deluxe size products.